Okay, so let's just jump right in. There's this stat, right? That's something like 25%, quarter of people earning over $100,000 a year are still living paycheck to paycheck.
It is pretty staggering when you hear it laid out like that. Really challenges the common idea.
Totally. The idea that just earning more automatically solves everything.
Exactly. If a higher salary isn't the magic bullet, then what is missing?
Well, that's exactly what we want to explore in this deep dive. We're looking at insights from Rohit Sethi, author of I Will Teach You to Be Rich.
Ah, yes, from his conversation on the Diary of a CEO, right. He has a very direct approach.
He really does. No nonsense.
Not our.
And our goal here is to pull out the really actionable stuff for building what he calls a rich life.
And it's important, like you said, that his definition isn't just about having tons of money, it's bigger than that.
Right. It's not about deprivation, cutting back on everything. It's about being intentional, spending on what you love, investing for the future.
Which is key, because there's just so much financial advice out there, it can feel overwhelming.
For sure. So we're hoping to cut through some of that noise, find some clarity, maybe spark a few of those, aha moments for you listening.
Sounds good. So, starting with that concept, rich life, what does that actually mean, according to Sethi, if it's not just about the bank balance?
Well, that's the core of it, isn't it? He really pushes back against just a dollar figure.
Yeah, he argues it has to be personal, defined by you, not by, what society tells you it should be.
And he finds that most people, when you ask them, they give these really vague answers like,
Freedom. That's the big one, right? Financial freedom.
exactly. But then he asks, okay, what does freedom look like? What will you actually do?
And that's where people often get stuck. He says something like less than 1% of people have really thought it through in detail.
Yeah, the specifics, like what trips will you take? What hobbies? How will your Tuesday look different? It's that level of detail.
Without that clarity, it's hard to align your spending. You see this disconnect. People say they want one thing, but their money goes somewhere else entirely.
Which perfectly leads into his idea of money dials. I found this really powerful.
hmm The money dials. Can you explain that a bit?
Yeah, it's about deciding where you want to spend, like extravagantly.
Yeah.
Just go for it on the things you truly value.
And the flip side is crucial too. Cutting back mercilessly on the things you don't care about.
Right, so maybe you absolutely love high-end restaurants or travel.
So you dial that way up. But maybe you don't care about having the newest car, so you dial that way down, keep the old one running.
Well, it forces you to actually know yourself and what you value instead of just kind of drifting.
And it makes you question why you're spending. Is it truly for you intrinsic motivation, or is it about keeping up appearances, extrinsic?
That status game, he talks about that, doesn't he? Buying things to impress people.
He does. He even shares a story about buying a big house early on, thinking it was the key to happiness and, well, status.
And it wasn't.
Nope. He found it isolating, actually. It wasn't fulfilling his definition of a rich life. It was about perception.
That's a great segue into the whole home ownership myth. The idea that owning a house is the ultimate sign of success, especially here in the U.S.
Oh, absolutely. It's deeply ingrained, part of the American dream narrative. He points out there's even historical context, almost like propaganda pushing it.
But he really challenges whether it's always the best financial move.
Right. From a purely numbers perspective, it often isn't. People forget all the hidden costs.
He uses that example of grandma's house, right? Bought
Yeah.
for cheap, sold for a fortune years later. Seems great on the surface.
But it ignores decades of maintenance, property taxes, insurance,
Inflation eroding the value.
and crucially, the opportunity cost. What if that down payment had been invested in the market all those years instead?
Yeah, the phantom costs, he calls them.
Yeah.
Interest on the mortgage is a huge one, too.
Massive. Over 30 years, you often pay more in interest than the original price of the house.
He even did a comparison, I think, renting versus owning in a place like New York City.
Yeah, showing how if you rented and invested the difference between the rent and the total cost of owning, you could potentially come out way ahead financially.
Which is kind of mind-blowing because the narrative is always renting is throwing money away.
Exactly. And here's Sethi, a finance guy, saying he's chosen to rent at times because the math worked out better. It's a valid choice.
Especially, he argues, for younger people starting out. Being tied down to one location by a mortgage can limit career opportunities.
Definitely. His advice is often move where the action is, usually big cities with more jobs, more potential early in your career. Renting gives you that flexibility.
Plus, houses aren't very liquid, are they? Selling takes time and money, transaction costs.
Huge transaction costs, agent fees, closing costs.
Yeah.
It's expensive to buy and sell, much harder than selling stocks or mutual funds.
No, he's not saying never buy a house.
No, not at all. He's saying run the numbers, understand the real costs, make an informed decision. If you buy knowing it might not be the absolute optimal financial move, but it fits your rich life vision, that's okay.
Just don't do it blindly because you think you should.
Precisely. It's about intentionality again.
Okay, let's switch gears to investing. This is another area that feels intimidating for a lot of people.
Yeah, there's this myth that it's only for rich people or people over 40, you know?
Sethi completely rejects that. He says investing is fundamental for everyone.
Absolutely. You need to start building wealth long term, and investing is how you do it. He emphasizes knowing your numbers, sort of the basic language of money.
Like what? What numbers are key?
Things like your savings rate, your investment rate as a percentage of your income, knowing your fixed costs, and having actual goals like when do I realistically expect to have X amount saved or invested?
Having those targets.
Right. It gives you something concrete to work towards.
And he has his conscious spending plan guidelines. Can you remind us of those rough percentages?
Sure. It's roughly 50–60% of your take-home pay on fixed costs, rent, mortgage, utilities, debt payments.
Yeah.
Then maybe 5–10% on savings goals, like for emergencies or a down payment.
Okay.
Another 5–10% specifically for long-term investments. And then the rest, maybe 20–35%, is for guilt-free spending.
That guilt-free part is so important, isn't it? It's permission to enjoy life now, too.
Totally. It balances the future focus with present enjoyment, and the key to making those savings and investment percentages happen.
Automation.
Automation. Set up automatic transfers the day you get paid. Money goes straight to savings, straight to investments. You don't even see it. You don't miss it.
Takes the willpower out of it.
Completely. And he stresses starting now. Doesn't matter if it's $50 a month, just start.
Because of compounding, right?
Exactly. Time is your biggest asset. Even small amounts grow significantly over decades.
So for someone starting out, what's the simplest way to invest? He recommends target date funds, yeah.
He does. They're designed to be super simple. You pick a fund based on roughly when you expect to retire, say a 20/60 fund if you're young.
And it handles the diversification for you.
Yep.
It holds a mix of stocks and bonds, and it automatically gets more conservative, more bonds, fewer stocks as you get closer to that 2060 date. Set it and forget it, essentially.
Low maintenance. And he recommends low-cost places to do this, like Vanguard.
Vanguard, Schwab, Fidelity, the big low-cost brokerage firms. The key is low fees.
And he warns against trying to be a day trader or using those gamified apps.
Oh, definitely. He thinks investing should be boring. Automatic, consistent, long-term, not exciting, not speculative like gambling.
Keep your checking account for spending, your investment account for long-term growth. Don't mix them up.
That separation is crucial. Investment accounts are for the long haul, letting compounding do its magic.
He uses that powerful example, doesn't he? Someone starting super young, like 16.
Yeah, investing maybe $5,000 a year. By the time they're 30, they might have, what, $130K? By 40, over $300K? It just snowballs.
And keeps growing, potentially reaching millions by retirement if they stick with it and increase contributions. It really shows the power of starting early. It absolutely does. Time in the market beats timing the market almost always.
And he makes that counterintuitive point about fees, too. Paying more doesn't mean you get better results at investing.
Right. That seemingly small 1% management fee can actually eat up like nearly 30% of your potential returns over your lifetime. It's huge.
Wow. So choosing low-cost funds really matters.
It makes a massive difference in the long run.
Okay, let's talk about his famous 10 money rules. They really sum up his philosophy. We don't have to go through all 10, but maybe some highlights.
Sure. The first one is pretty foundational. Have 1 year of emergency expenses saved.
1 year. That seems like a lot.
It is aggressive, but he argues it buys incredible peace of mind. You can weather almost any storm, job loss, medical issue without derailing everything or going into debt.
Okay, fair enough. Peace of mind is valuable. What's another key one?
Save 10% and invest 20% of your gross income.
Gross, not net. That's ambitious, too.
Very. It prioritizes future you heavily. Again, maybe aspirational for some, but it sets a high bar for paying yourself first.
Then there's paying cash for large expenses.
Yeah, that encourages deliberate saving. If you want that big trip or new furniture, you save up for it rather than putting it on credit. More intentional.
I like the ones about specific spending he doesn't question, like books.
Books, appetizers to share, health donations, those reflect his personal values, learning, connection, well-being, generosity.
The business class on long flights one is interesting.
That's a classic money dial example, right?
Hmm.
He values comfort and productivity on long hauls, so he spends lavishly there. It's personal to him.
Buy the best, keep it long. Quality over quantity.
Makes sense long term. Better value than disposable stuff.
No limit on health or education spending.
Foundational investments, he'd argue, in yourself.
And the one about only working with people you respect and like.
That speaks volumes about quality of life, doesn't it? Earning enough to have that choice, aligning work with your values.
And remembering life isn't just spreadsheets.
Crucial. Money's a tool, not the end goal. Enjoy the life you're building.
And maybe the most impactful rule, marry the right person.
He calls it the biggest financial decision you'll ever make. Your partner's views on money, their habits, it affects everything.
So talk about money early and often in a relationship.
Absolutely. He advocates for being really open, even about potentially awkward stuff like prenups, understanding each other's money story, how you grew up thinking about money.
Yeah, understanding where each other is coming from financially seems critical.
It builds trust and helps you get on the same page, working as a team towards shared goals.
Okay, moving beyond the rules. He also talked about some maybe less obvious traits of financially successful people. What stood out there?
He mentioned being good at multiple things, transferring skills, like being adaptable.
And some basic stuff too, right? Like being on time.
Yeah, punctuality, being prepared, having good social skills. He sees these as foundational traits that contribute to success broadly, including financially.
Interesting. What about traits or situations to avoid?
Definitely avoid being surrounded by negativity, people who pull you down or resent your success.
That don't get too big for your britches crowd.
Exactly. Also, avoid impulsive, short-term decision-making, and crucially, avoid not having that personal vision for your rich life. Vague goals lead nowhere.
Makes sense. We have
Yeah.
to touch on crypto. It always comes up. What's Remit's take?
Very cautious. He basically says if you want to dabble, treat it like Vegas money. A tiny percentage of your portfolio, maybe 1-5% max, that you can afford to lose for fun.
So not a core investment strategy.
Definitely not. He warns against the get-rich-quick mentality, chasing those crazy high returns. It's speculation, not investing.
And people tend to shout about the wins, but stay quiet about the losses.
Precisely. He sees the potential in the underlying blockchain technology, maybe, but from an investment standpoint for individuals. Stick to the boring, proven path.
Got it. So wrapping this all up, if we had to boil down the key takeaways from this deep dive into Remit's philosophy.
Okay, I'd say 1. Define your Rick's life, specifically. 2. Question conventional wisdom, like automatically buying a house. Do the math for yourself.
3. Embrace simple, automated, low-cost investing. Start now.
And 4. Align your money with your values and talk openly about finances in your key relationships.
Yeah. For me, the big aha moment is just that this stuff is accessible. Building wealth, living that rich life. It's not some secret code only certain people get.
Absolutely. It's about fundamentals, consistency, and being intentional. Anyone can do it, starting from wherever they are now.
It's empowering, really.
It is. Taking control is the first step.
Okay, so here's a final thought for everyone listening. Maybe take just 15 minutes later today. Grab a napkin, literally or figuratively, and just quickly estimate your own spending percentages. Fixed costs, savings, investments, fund money. Don't overthink it, just a rough sketch.
Get a baseline.
Exactly. And then spend a few minutes really thinking past the generic phrases. What does your rich life actually look like, feel like? Get specific.
And maybe identify one small thing.
Yeah. What's one tiny intentional step you could take, like today or tomorrow, to move just a little bit closer to that vision?